So, hello everyone. This is a recording post D&D stream for our discussion about the certain movie that just came out in theaters regarding a certain franchise of a galaxy far, far away. Yes, we're talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and let's just get a quick cursory glance at who we all have here. So first up, we have Ebony Inkstone. Second, Grom, better known as Red Orchestra.
Yo.
And finally, we have GutiuSerenade.
Hello, bootyfuls.
And I am your beautiful host here, Wuten, and we're just doing a quick little experiment here, seeing if there's any interest that we can drum up for this sort of thing. So let's just get some quick, non-spoilery thoughts out of the way. Ebony, what were your thoughts about this movie?
You just want to do
just overall.
Yeah, you just want to do like initial impressions, and then we'll
20 words or less kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not 20 words because I'm bad at those kind of things. But
No, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Just quick summary.
So, my general opinion of the movie is, it's good. It's worth watching. It's fun. But there are certain major points in this movie that may just not make it be up to the par with the usual Star Wars quality out of this trilogy. But I would say it's the strongest film of the three of this late trilogy.
Okay. Red Orchestra, what are your thoughts?
Well, what are my thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker? Let me tell you what my thoughts are on this movie. I'm gonna try and keep it brief. I don't want to ramble too much. This was by far one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a theater.
Okay, so we have pretty much the full spectrum of things, it looks like. Goody, what are your thoughts on this?
Mixed in a lot of ways. Something I do want to preface is my late father got me into Star Wars back when I was a kid, as I'm sure a lot of our generation did. And so, being the kind of emotional person I am, a lot of things really kind of resonated in the moment, but later on, upon reflection, I was just kind of like, I don't know about that now. But in another quick summary, it was a real salvage job, and that's a core. That really is a core element that my brain was focused on throughout the movie. But I'll dive more into that when we talk in more detail.
Okay, and my thoughts on it personally. I went and saw it with Brie Lizzie T. She and I watched all 6 movies together, and then about a week before we went and saw the Rise of Skywalker in theaters, we also watched the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And so she was caught up on all of it. I had refreshed myself on it, as well as the original 2 trilogies. And my thoughts are very similar to Goody, where it's a movie where it's a movie where you should see it at least once, if not to just finish the sequel trilogy and just see where all of these things eventually pay off, whether good or bad, or satisfying and unsatisfying, which, like has already been said, there were a lot of mixed bags with a lot of points in this movie. So I think with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into spoiler territory here. So we'll just go in a general chronological order here. So,
Oh boy.
the opening crawl.
Fuck.
Let's preface this. The opening crawl was based off of a marketing event that Disney had partnered with Epic Games to perform in Fortnite.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, we have to start before the movie starts, actually.
Yes.
Because because if you, for some reason, Disney decided to put story important fiction into an outside source before the film came out. Now, sometimes
That's news to me.
yeah, this is one of the reasons why there's like 95 different cuts of the film, is because there were about 1 billion test screenings. This is where all the leaks came from, because before I went and saw the movie, I read through the leaks. I will shamelessly say that, because sometimes they're not accurate. The problem is that a lot of them kind of were accurate, and that caused a lot of problems for me. Not just because I wasn't surprised by things, but because I was actually baffled at what I was seeing. But it all starts with the Epic Games thing, because they had a Fortnite crossover. It's like, okay, that's cool. But they put elements of things setting up the movie, which is not something you want to do.
So for context, the opening crawl mentions that the dead speak. Palpatine has returned and has given an announcement. During that Fortnite event, once I believe it was near towards like the end of that event, is the actual announcement that Palpatine gives, and they got Ian McDiarmid to give it and everything, and it was well, about what you would expect. Most folks were surprised, to say the least. I certainly was, to see the fact that they included a very important plot element. Like this, if you weren't part of the Fortnite event, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean,
it just, the dead speak, Palpatine has returned. We don't get any information as to why or how or
it's
what. Yeah,
it's the setup for the whole movie. Like, Palpatine is just back, and if you didn't know about the Fortnite event, you're just going in cold.
Cold, did I?
Yeah.
I will corroborate. I was not aware of this.
Most people weren't.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
That's a big problem. Problem number one in the opening crawl is that the entire premise of the movie is based on Fortnite, and the biggest problem that I have with the entire movie, plot negated anything, is the fact that
Palpatine is
now,
back?
No.
Oh.
Is that Fortnite is now canon in Star Wars.
What?
No!
And to take this a step further, Fortnite is also canon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We see Thor as a fat slob playing Fortnite with
Oh god,
what's his name? The Rock guy.
Oh god, you're right. You're right.
The Rock
you're
guy.
right.
What's the Rock guy's name from Ragnarok?
I don't remember his name, but he's played by Taika Waititi.
Yeah, he is. But okay.
Please stop.
So they're playing Fortnite, and
Please stop.
Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars are now implied to be in the same universe because Fortnite brings them together. Do you see why I have a problem with this?
Please stop.
No, because it goes even deeper than that. Because you start like if
No, don't put it in any more deep.
No. We need to go.
My asshole is too tight
Goody,
for this.
we need to go
It needs to
deeper.
come out.
Goody, we're all lubed up and ready to go. We're going deeper. So another layer you go into. So if Fortnite is canon within Marvel and Star Wars is canon within Fortnite, that means that Star Wars Fortnite is canon within Marvel Fortnite canon.
and they're all owned by Disney.
Please stop.
Why are you like this?
We're not even 30 seconds into the movie.
I did not consent to this.
So
You consented to this.
But listen. Right? We need to get forward. We need to push through the anal sphincter of this film and get right into the meaty guts of it.
And may I tag in here as we transition into the meaty guts?
Yes.
So, and I'm going to bring up this point from my point of view a lot during this podcast, but salvage job.
Salvage job. Yes.
The thing with Palpatine being back, and from here on, I'm going to assume I didn't go in thinking Fortnite, so I'm going to anything about Fortnite. So I'm going to be talking from a perspective of having not known about the whole Fortnite thing before you just went in dry with that shit.
We didn't know about it either. I learned that afterwards.
Yeah,
but I just learned about it
that like
10 minutes
a few
ago.
days before the movie came out. Was that there was I knew there was a Fortnite event for there was a Star Wars event for Fortnite, but I didn't know that story important details were included in that event, and I only watched it after I got back from the theater to see what was said, and I was like, oh my god, why didn't they just include this entire little bit? They could have made an entire opening bit for the Rise of Skywalker that had Palpatine coming back.
So here comes the meat.
Yes.
The transition into the big meat.
Yes.
Salvage job. And I think a lot of this is Disney's fault. If they had just stayed consistent with one fucking director, there could have been allusion to this and foreshadowing in Episode 8 instead of making it World War II in space.
Well, I mean, the whole problem with the trilogy, and this is something I've talked to with a bunch of people that I've seen the movie with, or at least have seen the movie, they didn't plan out this trilogy at all. Like, this isn't like the prequels where it's a sloppy mess, but George Lucas had a vision for where it was gonna go. This is a sequel to something that everyone loves, and they didn't know anything about what they were doing. Like, JJ set the things up if he had the mystery boxes. And then they just fucked it.
And I think that and it really does to add on to that, it really does show where with George Lucas, you see his vision with the prequels. You see new things. You see the universe built upon. You have the brilliant opera scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise ever.
I'd say best scene in the prequels by far. Honestly.
Yeah. But when it comes to the sequels, you gotta hand it to Disney. They know how to pander in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
I will say that my thoughts on The Force Awakens is it is a good setup movie. It gave us a lot. Because the thing about the mystery box thing that JJ does is it's a good setup for eventual payoff. The problem that I have with the sequels is that those mystery boxes were set up to pay off to something and never necessarily did, or they did but in a non-satisfying way. We get the whole thing about Rey's parents. We get the thing about what happened with Kylo, with him in the what caused him to fall to the dark side for the most part. Where who or what is Snoke? Why is Rey strong with the Force? And I was fine with the idea that she wasn't related to anyone previously known in the previous trilogies. I was fine with that because it gave that idea that we had way back in the early cinematic, the early expanded universe, where anyone could be force sensitive. It didn't matter what genes you had or any sort of thing. I was just concerned about how she was mastering these force abilities so quickly and so precisely. She was able to do the force pull without any sort of training whatsoever. And I wanted to like what they did with Last Jedi, especially with like your family came from nothing. They were filthy junk traders, sold you for drinking money. That was a good idea, but it didn't pay off in the way that I think they were trying to make it happen.
Well, I would, to add on to that, the main issue that this entire sequel trilogy has is characters. The characters are flat. They're very, very one-dimensional. I mean, Rey.
They fulfill a role in the story, and that is the worst kind of character.
Well, I would argue that they don't even do that. At least most of them.
When you have your three core group here, you have Rey, you have Finn, and you have Poe. It should not have taken until the end of Episode 8 for those three to have like met one another, because Rey and Poe, they hadn't met yet at that point, apparently.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if they want to establish this core of, how the two of them were disagreeing about how Poe was handling the flying of the Falcon, which, sidebar, that was really cool.
Yeah, that was good.
I really liked how he was driving the Falcon's stick. I liked that.
Actually,
that was clever.
I didn't. Okay. I will say, full disclosure, I did enjoy that scene where like they were multiple jumping through hyperspace. That was a good use of hyperspace travel, is jumping through multiple points to try and evade TIE fighters. And that is actually something that has been established back in the EU. That was a thing that was done.
I will like to add that one of the things that I will say it's a bad thing, but it's also a small little good thing, is the fact that obviously this last movie was really made for Star Wars fans, which is quote unquote good thing, because they were like trying to tell the fans, okay, we are sorry, we're trying to improve this, we're trying to fix this. We didn't do it. We didn't really do it, but there was an attempt to do it.
That's kind of like what I've been like meaning with like salvage job, because like the first it happens in the very first 2 minutes where it's like, what about Snoke? I made Snoke, and then it cuts away to that panning shot of all the like the Snokes and the bottles and stuff, and this whole time with like with Palpatine explaining stuff of him holding the strings. What that was resonating in my brain was, you can just don't worry about what happened, what Rian Johnson did. Here's what's going on now. We got 2.5 hours, so just bear with me.
Basically, and
and
the problem with that line of thinking though is that The Last Jedi did happen.
I know that's.
Yeah, and
to like swing back though real quick after I was talking about the Falcon, like you have that core of three characters who, and you see how I was glad to see them interact. It was cool to see that that Rey and Poe, they're both hotheads and they clash on a lot of things, and Finn's trying to mediate, and that was cool to. It was a cool dynamic, and one that could have been better developed if we had seen more of it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could have been a great like a broader character development.
One of the things that I saw in a post interview was Oscar Isaac, the actor for Poe, was actually playing Poe with the thought that, oh, they're giving these two war heroes a lot of like chemistry with each other. So he was thinking, oh, wait a minute, is Disney going to put Poe and Finn in like a homosexual relationship? That was actually what Oscar Isaac was sort of trying to push with his acting. Was I remember in one scene in particular in Force Awakens, when he showed up again and Finn and Poe met up after he had saved them from the what's her name, the planet
Plasma?
where
Maz?
Huh? Maz Kanata's little hideout thing. Once they had saved him, Finn and Poe meet up, and Poe's like, "Oh no, keep the jacket. It suits you." If you look back at that scene there, he actually does like a legit lip bite when he says that. He's like, "No, keep it. This suits you." And there was a lot of little moments like that he was trying to do with his acting with Finn, because the two of them had some decent chemistry, because the two of them both came from war. Finn in particular, you see like this really interesting potential dynamic between the two of them, where Finn is sort of like Finn is this person who has been traumatized by war. He was a child soldier. He was brought in, all he knew was war, and then when he was set out to massacre a village, he decided, no, I can't do this. War is horrible. I shouldn't be part of this. I need to get out of here. Poe, on the other hand, is a hotshot pilot. He almost revels in the idea of fighting the First Order, and you see this sort of potential dynamic that the two of them could have had, where Finn is anti-war and Poe is like for war, because it's what he enjoys. He enjoys being a pilot for the Resistance. And Poe, on the other hand, is trying to be as far away from war as possible. And the two of them could have had this really interesting dynamic there, which I really annoyed that Disney and the writers didn't dive into further.
Well,
just
I mean, if I were to just, you know, shit on my dreams a little bit, more importantly, everyone else's dreams, because I'm gonna be the I'm gonna be the negative Nancy here, which I'm fine with, because I fucking hate this trilogy.
Okay.
So I like the idea of Finn as a character, a deserting stormtrooper who has resisted his own programming to fight back against the regime that he was a part of. I'm like, okay, I like that idea. But I mean, we're talking about fucking Force Awakens now. We need to move on. But before we get to that, because it actually sets up my point about characters. Finn is a lot of things. However, he kind of fucks that up almost immediately, because he's like, oh, I'm now traumatized by war. I'm going to leave the First Order, and I will do this by helping a captured rebel escape. It's like, okay. As convoluted as that plan gets, we'll just pretend that we got there through good writing. So they're in the hangar, and then Finn just starts blowing the shit out of stormtroopers without hesitation. That's awkward. That's really awkward.
Yeah.
Because it's established, it's like, he's a child soldier. Everyone is a child soldier. Every stormtrooper was taken from birth, or as a young child, to be part of this army. And these are the people that he was raised with, and now he's like, well, I'm just gonna kill them, because fuck it.
Because they're Nazis, and Nazis are evil.
Nazi bad.
Finn, bro, listen,
Nazi.
Finn, bro. I love that clip of Mark Hamill yelling that. So dumb.
But yeah, I was trying to getting a bit back into Rise of Skywalker. I was going to the point that it was also a big bad thing, the fact that they tried to pander to the fan Star Wars so much, because even though yes, it's part of a trilogy, even though yes, it's part of a big universe, a lot of people will think that even though they were assholes, but but fans of Star Wars could defend the idea of certain concepts being like, oh, but this concept was actually existing in the Star Wars canon, like the Force healing, or like the Sith alchemy, because there were concepts that actually existed in the Star Wars canon. However, a normal person that doesn't know that doesn't know about the deep Star Wars lore, doesn't know that, and they will think it's an asshole, and that's where the movie fails as a movie, because even though it's part of a trilogy, you should be able to watch it and engage with it, and even though you may not understand the whole the whole thing, you will still understand this particular movie.
Yeah,
that was one thing that I enjoyed about the original trilogy, was that I actually started when I was 4 years old with Empire Strikes Back, and that was my introduction into Star Wars. And then eventually, I was talking with my parents, and they were like, "Oh, well, let's get you started on what happened before that." And that's when I got to see New Hope with the whole thing. And then the Death Star trench run specifically was probably my favorite scene in all of cinema, like straight up. So one of the strongest points of the original trilogy compared to the sequels is that you can watch each movie by itself and have a cursory understanding of most of everything that's going on.
And if I were to make a direct comparison to another Disney property, which is the MCU, yes, I know, Wuten, you're gonna roll your eyes at this.
Continue.
But as someone who is I'm not a huge fan, but I'm enough of a fan to, I've seen every single movie, save for 2. Thor: The Dark World isn't important. Don't worry about that one. That's bad. You can watch every one of those movies and kind of get an idea of where the universe is at that moment, and every character is fairly well established within the film. Like, for example, you watch something like Captain America Civil War, it introduces like 5 characters. I'm not even fucking joking. You get Black Panther, you get the entire concept of like Wakanda, you get new Bucky. There's so fucking much going on in that movie, but you can follow it because they play with the characters. You know them. Even if you've never seen any of the other films, you can watch that movie and get an understanding of what's happening. The other films only provide further context.
When it comes to the EU, a lot of my outlet of like knowledge of it and whatnot usually comes from like either Wuten or my girlfriend Luna, who she knows even more about Star Wars than I do, which is fucking crazy. So when it came down to seeing this movie, and when I saw that Palpatine was capable of let's back up before this part. So when I saw that Force healing was a thing, do you want to know how I knew that Force healing was a thing? Because I played Super Empire Strikes Back on the Super Nintendo when I was 9. They let you can do that in that game, and I was like, oh, well, I guess cool. That's how I'll beat Vader in the final battle because I could just heal myself while he's throwing shit at me, shit like that.
Yeah.
But then you know, it was also made known to me that it's a thing in the EU, I think. But then when Palpatine, let's get back to him, when he was able to like just absorb life, I knew that I had to ask Luna afterwards. I couldn't remember if it was something that Darth Bane had mastered or if it was someone else. It was like a really old Sith who would just like devour all the life of like an entire planet or something.
Darth Nihilus.
Well, if we're gonna go,
Darth Nihilus.
Yeah,
Darth Nihilus.
Yeah,
Yes.
Darth Nihilus.
if we're
Yes.
gonna go like,
And I was like,
yeah, if we're gonna go,
and so when
no, go ahead.
okay, sorry. When Palpatine was doing that, I was like, oh shit, he's doing that thing that I know about. But there's a good chance that there are movie veterans who know exclusively the movies who don't know this shit.
Yeah.
Well, there's two problems with the idea of like the Force healing and the Force light siphon, I guess you would call it. Because I'm very familiar with a lot of the extended universe stuff, mostly through the portal of like video games. Because the idea of like stealing Force energy from living beings is, as in a video game, I think it was first introduced in the Clone Wars game from like 2002, where the whole MacGuffin of the game is that there's this Sith artifact that allows you to power it up and steal the Force energy from an entire planet's worth of beings. So you wipe the planet clean of all life, and then you store it in this massive battery, and then it can power this enormous ship, which is the final boss of the game, and it's balls hard. But the idea, it's like, okay, we know that exists in the extended universe. However, I have several problems with it being in the movie as it stands. The biggest problem I have, and we're just going to go straight to the end, well, sort of the end. Palpatine kind of just wins, but then he doesn't. And I have a huge fucking issue with how that plays out. Because Palpatine's like, oh, I have sucked the life force out of you, both Rey and Kylo. I will now force lightning the fucking entire fleet above me as if I am literally God. And then I will be struck down by Rey entering what essentially equates to the Avatar state. And I was in the theater.
They wanted their Avengers Endgame moment, and I don't think it panned out as well as they had hoped.
I mean, I laughed. I actually laughed in the theater at that. I was baffled. I was fucking stunned that they actually did that. And
I never really got how lightsaber could reflect Force lightning, because I thought Force lightning was supposed to be like one of the most powerful Force abilities.
Well, we do see that being done in the movies.
We'll get to Force lightning. This movie's got some uses.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I can say that it's weird if you're a Star Wars fan, because you know Force lightning is the shit. But at least it has been done before. It's not a new thing.
No, I mean, Force lightning makes sense, but to the extent that it's used in the movie, you're pushing it like way too far.
Yeah, one thing was Dooku versus Obi-Wan, and then one thing is the power to destroy a fleet versus a single lightsaber.
Chain lightning the entire fucking fleet.
Can I just bitch about the fucking Final Order fleet real quick, because it pisses me off so much. Why can't they go? Why can't they go up? No, fuck you. Why can't they go up?
Because gravity?
No, fuck you. Why can't they go up?
Oh my god.
Also, did any of you feel that the Knights of Ren were all the movie?
Oh my god.
They were imposing, and then by the end they just get fucked up by a lightsaber.
They were referenced in Episode 7 never mentioned in 8, and then in 9 they're just they're just an elite police force that
elite
get
grunts.
roped.
Elite grunts.
Yeah.
Literally elite grunts.
You know what?
My initial thought when I saw the Knights of Ren, I looked at them for like, I don't know, 5 seconds, because that's like their first introductory scene. It's very brief. But when you first see them, I'm like, that's a Dark Souls gank squad.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god. Oh jeez. Oh man. Oh, okay.
Oh.
So
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I think they were trying to go for that aesthetic. And honestly, okay, so the Knights of Ren were revealed. I was totally okay with that because that also meant that Kylo, when he went to kill Luke's temple, he had help. And he didn't just do it by himself, which sort of gets implied by the 8th movie, was that he destroyed my temple, took some of my students, and killed all the rest. It's sort of implied that those students were the Knights of Ren, but it also it's such a weird, jarring thing because then
I was gonna say that's what one of my biggest issues was with those characters. If we are talking about the Knights of Ren being Jedi children, Jedi children, that means they're Force sensitive. That means they can very well use a fucking lightsaber. Why the fuck didn't they use any lightsabers or the Force to fight Kylo? Because yes, he's a Skywalker, yes, he's a badass, but in the end, he's just a fucking Padawan fighting against 8.
I'll say that, in fact, back when The Last Jedi happened, I was thinking that the Knights of Ren were those red guards for Snoke. I was thinking like, oh, the Knights of Ren, they graduated from being under Kylo Ren to being under Snoke. That's what I was thinking. But okay, I mean, whatever. They're in this movie now.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that because they don't do anything with them. They just kind of they're mentioned by name, and then they're not in the movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the Knights of Ren. Just kidding. You'll see them in 4 years. For 5 minutes.
And then they'll get owned by a punk with a lightsaber who will say "ow" when he hits the ground.
Can we talk about Kylo?
Yes.
Because I love.
Yes, let's talk about Kylo.
Because I love Kylo. I love Kylo because his character is batshit crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy, but it's a believable crazy. You know, it's like sure, yeah, you could this his. The thing is, with Kylo, his character progression makes decent sense. Like, and he almost revels in the fact that he killed his father.
Character.
Huh? Yeah, he's like the only character of the whole trilogy. Yeah. It's like he's the only dynamic character throughout because you see him almost in like a backwards you see him almost like a reverse of Anakin, because in the beginning of in the first movie of the trilogy, he is conflicted. He is figuring out what he wants to do. He is conflicted between the light and the dark. And then at the end of that movie, he kills Han, and so he has decided to go dark side. And then in the second movie, you see he is very much still dark side, to the point where he, in fact, fulfills at the end the rule of 2 and kills his master and tries to recruit Rey as his
apprentice.
as basically his apprentice, and ironically continuing the rule of 2. But then she refuses, and he goes like straight up Supreme Leader
Ah, shit.
Kylo goes mad with power. And then in the 9th movie, he's just Kylo. And then eventually, yeah, just
It's very strange how they handle his character throughout all 3 movies, because in all 3 movies he's a different character. And in episode 9 he is, I'd say it's the most drastic change for him, because it starts off he's Kylo from episode 8, and then the movie progresses and he slowly becomes comic relief to an extent, which is interesting. Like
I was gonna say that about Hux, to be honest.
Oh my fucking god!
I was going to say, can we make a
Hux
small?
is in this movie for not even. He's in the movie for maybe 2 minutes.
Yes.
He has,
and I was like,
he has the best scene. He has the best scene where
he really does.
Where he just yells, "I am the spy," and everyone's like, "What?" And I was like, I know that, but what? Why'd you say it like that?
Yeah. It was like, it was obvious that, it was pretty obvious that Hux was the spy.
Yeah.
But it's like, would a spy announce that he was the spy?
I am the spy. I am the spy.
I am the spy.
And then,
because it's pretty obvious that, I forget, did they destroy the cameras before he said that?
well, no, because they weren't even in the prison when they were going to execute them.
Yeah.
He took them into the hangar.
Yeah, and then he told them, and he was saying, "I don't care if you win. I just want Kylo to lose."
And then,
that single line was like, what the fuck, are you 5 or?
oh yeah, my favorite part of his entire 2 scenes is when General Pride's like, he doesn't give a fuck and he just shoots him.
Yeah.
I found the spy, guys. Don't worry, it's fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, I kind of like General Pride.
He's like, he was the most no nonsense.
He's a proper villain.
Yeah, he's like, he is the general that we needed. Like, him and Kylo would have been, like, we would have seen much more.
Tarkin the Second, not Baby Tarkin.
He was, baby, like, Tarkin the Second. I feel like he was, like, General Price was what they wanted Hux to be. Sort of like a foil for Kylo. But then that all sort of fell apart in 8 when he was just comic relief, and
it's
everything just sort of fell apart on his end.
Running like a rag doll all the time.
Because they wanted to make fun of the Nazi guy, you know?
Well,
so.
it's such a, like, you can't play with tone like that, especially with characters. Like Hux, I have problems with Hux's character in episode 7, mainly because he's just like he's comically evil. And then in episode 8, he's comically incompetent. And then in episode 9, he's comically fucking dead.
Yeah. There was comedy throughout, but each one was totally different. But yeah. Episode 7, Hux, was honestly, I liked where they were going with him, because he was like so over the top. It reminded me of it pretty much reminded me of Palpatine in episode 3, where he was like, after Order 66 was gone and the Jedi were killed, he was going fucking crazy. He was like, "Yes, I did it! Force lightning!" Whereas Hux, when he's launching the weapon, he's like, "This will be the last day of the Republic!" Like, holy shit, that delivery was so camp, and I loved it. But then it all just sort of fell apart after that, you know?
Yeah.
Then it turned into, can he hear us? Is that thing on?
I think he's tooling you, sir.
Yes. Also, I will add Papu Frik was really good comedic relief on episode 9.
Oh my god.
However, However, I will say that the scene with 3PO was actually making me feel things on how it was going.
Okay, I wanna.
So I didn't like that they didn't wanted to risk that loss of status.
Well,
Because yeah, 3PO is not the most beloved character, but even though he's been one that has been with us like through the whole journey, and it will have been something important. And then just make it fucking funny, and then R2 just fix it back.
Well, you want to know? Yeah, I mean, this movie had. I actually say this movie has an underlying theme of non-committal. Here's what I mean by that. Let me explain. So,
Joey.
Yeah, we'll start with there.
Yeah. Okay. So, that was the next thing I was going to talk about. But Dakota, take it away.
So, Rey. We're just gonna skip past all the dumb bullshit on the desert planet because that's a wow. They can fly now.
They can fly now.
They can fly now.
They've been flying since the fucking 70s.
They've got wheels.
Yeah.
Don't mind it. So Rey and Kylo get into a horse duel. They're controlling a drop ship. Holy shit, okay.
Okay. Pause. When this happened, I literally So, when this happened, we were in the theater. Sabrina and I literally turned to each other and we whispered, "Mom said it's my turn on the Xbox." As like they're force pulling this transport ship, and then Rey does
Kylo pushes her force ability to the point where she premature ejaculates force lightning.
Yeah.
And she blows the entire ship up with one bolt.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the theater, completely fucking blown away by the fact that they just killed Chewbacca. I was like,
I know.
Are you? I'm like, of course they would do it like that. Of course they would.
And then 2 minutes later, it's okay, he's alive. No more suspension of disbelief.
I have two feelings about that. My feeling is
my biggest.
If I can't play on the Xbox, no one can.
Well, I mean, if I were to be real about how I feel about it, you know why that happened, right? That's a reshoot, 100%.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is?
No, it has to be because there's no way. Ebony, if you don't know, so there were several test screenings before the movie came out. There's stories about like what they were, and if you've ever read through any of the leaks on like Reddit or whatever, the leaks talk about things that aren't in the theatrical version. And there's two theories for that. One is that people are lying, which is possible. However, the second possibility, which I find to be more likely, is that there are several cuts of the film with different scenes inserted into different areas that completely change the story one way or the other. And Chewbacca's death is one of them. Because I don't think Chewbacca was supposed to live. I think they were actually going to kill him off there. And I think they're going to try and have a whole thing where Rey feels guilty and that maybe pushes her towards the dark side. That's a thing that I could almost buy. However, I honestly wish that they went with that because they give Chewie almost nothing to do after that. No, the best scene that Chewbacca has in the movie is one that made me go, that fucking wow. Where they give him the medal at the very end. Like Maz gives him the medal. And I'm like, oh, Chewie, all your friends are fucking dead, bro.
Okay, I actually felt really bad for him when he finds out that Leia died, and I was like, oh.
I mean,
that was the reaction to that was really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, it's It's the only reaction any of the original characters have to anything that they do.
And to anyone's deaths.
Because
like in episode 8, it was like, where's Han? Cutaway.
Yeah, Luke doesn't react to Han's death.
Luke reacts in a deleted scene.
Yeah, in a deleted scene.
They had a deleted scene of that, and they didn't include it in the movie because they felt it would make the runtime too long, even though the runtime was already 2.5 hours of bullshit.
Yeah, and
so all those times that they had all those fucking porgs, they could have included that. But no, we gotta make time for porgs.
Hey.
Yeah, we have time. We have time for porgs. We have time for crystal meth foxes. We have time.
We have time for Canto Bite.
Oh fucking hell, we have time for Canto Bite. Let me tell you about casinos, boy.
But we don't get to see the main fucking protagonist react to another main fucking protagonist.
It's like no, no, don't worry about it.
We need porgs and crack foxes.
Yeah, that student that you trained.
There was an Okay, pause. There was an roughly an 18-second deleted scene clip of Luke Skywalker reacting to it was still sort of a cutaway, but it was like a proper cutaway where it's like Luke it's implied that Luke sent them away, and you see him like kneeling down in his hut, and you can see like his lip quivering, and he's just trying, like his hand is trembling, trying to cope with the fact that his best friend is dead and his nephew killed him.
Yeah, it's not only that not only that his best friend is dead, it's the fact that he drove the person who killed him to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would have rated the movie. I would have rated episode 8 even higher if I had seen that scene alone, to be honest, because I love Mark Hamill, and Mark Hamill knows how to fucking deliver.
He does. After we're done here, I will send you that deleted scene. I think it's a very good deleted scene that they should have included.
I want to watch it.
I mean, I think.
All right, I'll send it to you.
The fact that they didn't put it in, I think, speaks about how little of a fuck they gave about Luke's character. Because they don't. Rian Johnson did not give a fuck about Star Wars. We keep rotating back to episode 8, but God, I can't hate episode 8 enough.
And like that's where the whole salvaging thing comes into play, because with my point of view of it, at least, like I know we're all talking about Rise of Skywalker through our own perspectives, and I really think that yes, despite the fact that episode 8 happened the way it did and still exists in the way that it does, I think that it could have been a lot different and a more complete puzzle if we had a consistent director do the entire thing themselves.
I mean, people
in this case,
Abrams. People have argued that, and I kind of have to agree, because I don't think, how to even put this, I think J.J. Abrams knows how to direct. The problem is he's not a good writer. He's similar to, what's his name?
M. Night Shyamalan?
No, because Shyamalan can write. The problem is he has to kind of give a fuck. And he just doesn't give a fuck for so many of the movies that he writes. But for stuff like The Sixth Sense, or, God, what was it? What was that movie? The one about the guy who's like a weightlifter. Was it Unbreakable?
I believe.
Maybe.
Is it the one of Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Unbreakable.
Yeah, like those are two. I mean, he's got a bunch of like movies that suck, but those are two movies I would cite as he knows what he's doing sometimes. But like J.J. Abrams, I mean, leave him to write on his own. You get stuff like Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan Part 2. Which, I mean, I don't think that movie's terrible, but to anyone who's a fan of the original trilogy and is a fan of the original like Star Trek motion pictures, that movie's fucking insulting. because they just play the roles in reverse with Kirk reacting to Spock's death instead of Spock reacting to Kirk's death. Wow, Jesus Christ. That's a whole other thing. JJ can direct movies. He knows how to do visuals, he knows how to do characters, he knows how to do dialogue. He knows how to do scenes. He doesn't know how to do story.
You know what would have been really, really good for this movie, this entire sequel trilogy? There's a writer in the Lucasfilm story group named Dave Filoni.
Yes.
And I feel like if Dave had the reins of the sequel trilogy, if he was trusted with it, because he was the one that controlled Clone Wars, he controlled Rebels, he currently controls Resistance. Oof. I feel like if he was given the reins of the sequel trilogy, he would have delivered a much more cohesive story throughout the entire trilogy, which then the directors in question could have taken those and run with them. Because the issue with episode 8 that most people have is the fact that Rian Johnson was like the sole director, writer, producer, etc. He had complete control over the narrative. Well, basically complete control over the narrative of that movie.
Well, I mean, I would say that my biggest issue is it's not the fact that Rian Johnson was the sole proprietor of the film, because as much as I kind of agree with that, there's one thing that does kind of eat away at that, which is Kathleen Kennedy approved the script. And if anyone is not aware of the Last Jedi script, first draft.
Yeah, first draft.
1.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Filoni is in charge of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Yeah.
And that shows.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
I mean, with Star Wars, I think one of the biggest contributing factors to its success, it's not just one person that makes Star Wars great, right? It's a whole shit ton of people, writers, producers, all these amazing and talented people. However, you need a cohesive team, or you at least need some people to kind of bounce ideas off of. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why, as much of a clusterfuck as the prequels can be, that's why I think George Lucas is so goddamn important to Star Wars, is because George Lucas, similar to Dan Aykroyd, is an ideas man. He can generate ideas like you wouldn't fucking believe. The problem is, a lot of them are completely batshit crazy and totally unfilmable. But, but because
not wrong with that.
Because if you've ever seen some of the interviews that John Landis has about the Blues Brothers, because Dan Aykroyd wrote that, is he handed him like a 50-page script, and John Landis is like, Dan, we can't fucking film this. This is way too big. This is like 20 movies. We gotta cut it down to like 6-7 pages of the good shit or set. That's what you need. You need George Lucas and like a bunch of other people who give a fuck about Star Wars in a room, just bouncing ideas and getting the best ideas and then going from there.
Yeah.
Well, you know the issue there?
What?
I don't believe George Lucas gives much of a crap about Star Wars anymore.
No, he doesn't, because honestly, I don't blame him, because I feel bad for George, honestly.
Yeah.
Because
they make him hate the work of his life.
Well, it's not Disney that did that. I hate to say it, because I am a fan of Star Wars, but the fans are kind of responsible for blaming George, because I mean, George is responsible for the prequels, make no mistake. But we didn't know how bad it could fucking get. Like if peak terribleness of Star Wars was Episode 2, we'd be fucking gold. I'd be so goddamn happy.
I mean, to be honest, I really like episode 2, except the whole scene on Naboo. But everything else is good to me.
So like most of the movie is like bad.
Look. I will say that I believe Attack of the Clones, aside from Bridge of the Sith, is the movie of Star Wars I've most came to because of the fucking Geonosis arena. All that part to me is just.
I mean, the thing that I will always give the prequels credit for is how far they went into building up the world of Star Wars, which is something that the sequel trilogy has kind of failed to do. Is it doesn't introduce anything particularly new and interesting. It builds off of things that we already know. And shut up. Shut up, corporate shill.
Porgs are a meme.
Got him.
But the biggest problem I have with the sequels is that they don't add anything. Like you get a few little new designs here and there, but for the most part, you got your TIE fighters, you got your X-wings, you got your AT-STs, your AT-ATs, you got this, that, the other. Everything is basically just recycled and slightly upgraded from the Empire.
And like that's something that you really gets you make them think as writers just how much you rely on serial escalation to show how much something of a threat is. Like in episode 4, the Death Star. Wow, that shit's a planet killer. Oh my god, we need to stop this thing. And then what's worse than a Death Star, you think? Episode 6 comes along. Death Star 2. Oh my god, that station is operational. It doesn't look it, but it is operational. We are fucked. And then here comes the sequels.
Yeah.
You have Star Killer Base, which is a planet that somehow went unnoticed in its construction under the New Republic. That shotguns planets into nothingness, and then by episode 9, the ships do the planet blowing up.
But it's not only the ships. There's hundreds of ships. Where did they come from?
Exactly.
Where did they come
how
from?
do they go up?
How do they go up?
So, fun thing, now that you mentioned the thing with the Starkiller base, which is why I go again to the point that these are things that you should not let the people guess about, because they're really important points. Like, why the fuck does the Republic didn't know about this thing?
I mean,
apparently the explanation was that if we play Jedi: The Fallen Order,
oh yeah, you're right.
we go to Ilum, which is the planet where the Jedi used to look for the crystal to make the lightsabers.
Yeah.
And when we see that planet from above, we see that actually the First Order is already starting to build that thing. And yes, it will make sense that Ilum is being used for that, because only the Jedi used to go there. And now the Jedi are dead.
It's
why didn't explain this?
Yeah, it's retroactive patching of the story, which
I learned that 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, I have so many problems with like retroactive storytelling, because the narrative should be the narrative doesn't have to be airtight. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be coherent, and I just want it to fucking make sense. The sequels have shed logic and reason in favor of showing me things that I've already seen. And the problem with that is, why bother if you're not going to do anything new? Like, I get, like, episode 7, you want to recapture the feeling of Star Wars because it's been, like, 15 years. And you want to bring people back in, like, yes, this is what Star Wars was. Like, that makes sense. It's a soft reboot. But you got to follow it up.
And with that reboot, you want to do something new and interesting.
I mean, well, I saw a suggestion from just like a random person in the YouTube comment section that actually would have solved a lot of the sequel's problems. It would have solved two things. Number one, it would have given us a new super weapon. That would have been something that just blows up planets, because that's boring. We've seen that. And two, it would give us an explanation for how the First Order was able to so easily just rearm and re-equip a brand new army. And that was the power of an artifact called the Star Forge. Which,
so we return to KOTOR.
Which, if anyone here is not familiar with the Star Forge,
no spoilers. I haven't played that.
No, it's not part of that. It's really. It's
KOTOR 1.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You can spoil it.
But basically, what the Star Forge is, it's a giant artifact of more or less unknown origin. That when you just plop it next to a star, and it just siphons energy off of the massive solar body, and it just starts producing whatever the fuck you want it to.
Yeah.
And I want to throw my hat in the ring here with what you just mentioned. A very famous line. I do not require glory, only results for my emperor. I don't need to blow up a planet when I have a TIE fighter that's immune to fucking shots.
Is this from
Are you talking about my favorite character in all of Star Wars?
I am Wuten. I most certainly am.
Yay.
Because if you want to talk about threats, yeah, maybe, like you were saying, maybe blowing up the planets, that's kind of boring. You don't need to make a big spectacle of it if you just have overwhelming numbers and more advanced tech to
One
wipe up the
thing
rabble.
I will suggest. If it were the case that Disney just decided, rather than reboot the trilogy with a brand new story and everything, just make an adaptation of the Heir to the Empire series of trilogy of novels. Heir to the Empire. Fucking A. What's the second one? Dark Force Rising and The Last Command. Just all three of those. That would have been. I would have been so on board with that, because each one of those has an explanation that's believable, and each one is a very entertaining continuation of the Star Wars universe. It also introduces two of my favorite characters, Grand Admiral Thrawn and Mara Jade Skywalker. But that's a totally different story.
But they're dead in the canon.
Well, they could have brought Thrawn back easily enough.
Yeah, I guess.
He was enough of a hit in Rebels, they could have done it.
They brought back Palpatine. You can bring back fucking anyone at this point.
No,
are you eating during
Palpatine's a lich.
Are you eating during a fucking recording that we're doing?
Yes, I'm eating pizza at 1 a.m. Sue me.
Right. Well, let's see. We've gone over. We've gone on tangents quite a bit. But I think with an hour and almost 10 minutes, I think we've got a pretty good understanding of most of our thoughts and feelings on this movie, and just trilogy as a whole compared to the rest of the franchise.
Okay. So I know I'm the spicy boy here. That I've got the hot takes.
You got some more spice for us before we sign off for the night?
No, I think I have a criticism that I think everyone can agree with.
Okay.
Okay, does everybody agree that the pacing of the movie is fucking awful?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pacing of all three are kind of bad. Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker in particular. I mean, I've never
Rise of
seen
Skywalker
a movie.
in particular, yes.
I've never seen a movie that just
pretty lightning
that just
quick.
starts like that fast. like, oh fuck, I need to pay attention. Oh god, whoa, fucking hell. Kylo, stop. Jesus Christ, establish something.
It's almost like you were stick shifting the Falcon throughout the whole movie. Am I right?
It was like I was being punched in the face by the script.
Information!
Oh god, help! Please do an establishing shot.
God damn. All right.
So I was thinking, because I know we are we'll talk about the awful things in the movie, but at least I want to believe that all of you will agree that even though it's weird, that scene with the Jedi voices was actually kind of good.
I was happy for the throwback of some of the voices.
Yeah,
I was happy with it.
I was on the most surface level. I was glad that Samuel L. Jackson came back. I was disappointed he didn't call anyone a motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm in that boat. I'm in that same boat.
Ray, you better whoop this motherfucker.
This is a PG-13 movie.
Get me out a window.
This is a PG-13 movie. You get one motherfucker to use. Not a single one.
Yeah, not a single motherfucker in that entire movie.
yeah.
Man, you know what? Was Revenge of the Sith PG-13? I can't remember.
It was.
Yep, it was 13.
It was?
I believe it was teen because
It's PG.
That movie did.
Yeah,
That would be
That movie
PG-13.
had-
PG-13. That'd be PG-13. So what you're saying
okay,
is
different.
we
Different
missed
years.
2 chances for Mace Windu to say motherfucker.
No, we missed.
Three.
We missed 3 because there
Three.
wasn't a single motherfucker in Last Jedi either.
Well,
God damn
4
it.
because he also was on Phantom Menace.
Oh, for fuck's
Well,
sake!
Phantom Menace was a PG movie, not
That's true.
PG-13.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have liked it to have been at Where's Han? Fuck.
Yeah, Henry Cavill just like appears as Geralt of Rivia, and he's like, "Fuck."
Okay, so Goody, you want to know where is Han? He's in the planet core.
Oh, you must mean the planet core.
No, bro. No, bro. Listen, Han Solo. Han Solo's
All right,
Han Solo's a Force ghost, but he's not really a Force ghost. He's just a memory, bro. So Kylo's really just kind of talking to himself. It's kind of awkward. It's weird, bro. Stop. By the way, I'm gonna throw my lightsaber into the ocean so that I can get my ass kicked at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Decision making.
Well, perfect. So on that note, it is late for most of us, so I think we'll go ahead and call this the end of our sequel trilogy rant part 1. If we decide to do another one, we'll see what the interest is and see if there's interest for more discussion about these movies and possible ideas that we may have and various other things about this franchise, which I will say, all 4 of us, we love this franchise. Before any comments down in the comment section say that we're just haters, we love this franchise. And because we love this franchise, we want it to do better. And we will willingly give our thoughts and feelings on that matter without any sort of restriction on that sort of thing.
Yeah, so,
Until
It's going to need to be a pinned comment.
Some of my favorite games of all time are Star Wars games.
yeah, like my favorite game as a child was Rogue Squadron on the Windows 98 operating system, where like I think I was let's see, that was 99, so I was 6, 7, somewhere around there, something like that.
When I was
For me,
7,
it was
one of my favorite 3DS games was The Force Unleashed.
I was a kid, like I was saying earlier, it was the ridiculously hard Super Series.
And I grew up with the Battlefront games, Republic Commando.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I started playing the RPGs.
And now I'm getting into KOTOR, which I'm loving.
It's a really good game. KOTOR is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, be warned, KOTOR 2 kind of does start getting a little bit weird, in the halfway point, because the game technically isn't finished. They never quite got it to where they wanted it to be.
I'm playing the finish mod, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the restored content. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a wrap, guys.
Yeah.
For those of you watching, hopefully you enjoyed our little back and forth between the four of us, a little powwow.
Fuck movies.
And we watch movies.
Oh my god, what's wrong with your script?
Fuck you.
Well, until next time, thank y'all for joining me for all of this, and let's see what the interest is. Maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Ciao, y'all.
Hell yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Till next time. See y'all. Bye.